a land of deep, ancient magic, immense mineral wealth, and abundant opportunities for mischief. Welcome to Adventures in Erethin. We enter Erethin at a time in history when the wealthiest members of society have the ultimate death insurance. Welcome back to A Rogue, a Monk, and a Cat. I'm the Dungeon Master Marco, and I'm joined today by our rogue,
Torax,
our monk,
Althea,
and our cat,
Felix de Felicis, fiercely frustrated feline.
Nice.
Yes! Getting all the F's in there.
Okay, let's do a quick recap of what happened last week. So, you guys realized that one of the soldiers that you attacked had only got unconscious and was not dead and was trying to escape through the forest. Turns out they had alerted the guards to the fact that they need help, but you guys managed to evade all of that trouble, killing all witnesses and escaping into the city of Vistron with a chest full of coins as well. So that was a nice bonus. You even managed to sneak the mimics in, which didn't think they'd ever get that far, but they did.
Freedom for mimics!
just got a bone now in public for everyone. Meet everyone.
I'd love to see like just two chests humping each other.
Yeah, and you guys made it into the city of Vistron and into Felix's father's home. He promptly freaked out, and you guys now have a plan of action. You're gonna go see the wizard that was mentioned in the burned letter that you got. Mm-hmm. And that's where we left off. Just before we finished last episode, Torax, you collapsed. You are now fully unconscious and disconnected from the rest of the world. So that's not great, but let's fix that. Okay. What are you guys doing at the moment?
Okay. So, how about we just go get the wizard?
Instead of trying to take him to the wizard, I like
He just
that.
seems very heavy.
We can leave him in the care of Martha.
Yeah. Martha, would you be a dear and drag him into the guest room?
Martha looks at his very heavy body. Martha's only a tiny little fearless.
Surely Martha just brings out the gun.
Yeah.
Just goes as her eyes just explode with raw power.
And just looks pleadingly at you, Althea.
I'll help, I guess.
Cool.
Take the end. Yeah. I just kind of lightly hold his arm. I'm helping.
Martha struggles the hell out of dragging Torax into, just like a lounge room off to the one side. It's real comfortable, kind of dim light in there and all that.
Martha, do you maybe bathe him, put some nice oils on him?
I'm just gonna stop.
Get him ready for life. Yeah. Yes.
I'll see what I can do.
I'll give you a platinum, which I steal from Torax.
I don't need to give
That's a lot of money.
You don't need to give her.
He's a dead guy.
You don't need to give her anything. She's gonna do it all.
Yeah, she's already getting paid for this. If you pay her that much money, she might leave.
Just give her a singular.
I'll give her 2
copper.
gold.
That's way too
That's
much.
way too much.
Stingy.
That's how much she makes in a decade.
In a decade, yeah. Give
That's
her
not
a
true.
singular copper piece.
I'll give her a silver.
Excuse me? I'm not made of money. I only have 138. I wake up and...
We have 138. So I'll give her 2 gold.
Okay. Yeah, she just sees you like pull out a platinum and look at it, put it back in your purse, pull out some gold and look at it, shake your head, put it back in your purse, pull out some silver, and then you go back to the gold and give the gold to her. Great. She, I don't know, I guess starts to make Torax presentable.
Yeah, like, you know, like a sponge bath.
Yeah,
Like,
like preparing him for burial.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Embalming.
Basically.
You gotta clean the corpse, make sure he's very presentable.
Yeah, like
Mhm.
with the
Paint
paint
on
on
his
face.
face, yeah,
Like
yeah.
brush the hair.
Yeah, she starts applying some blush to your cheeks.
I can't
Bring
say
some
anything.
colours
Yeah,
and life back in
you know,
those
stitch
cheeks.
up his clothing,
Yeah, yeah.
shine the leather.
Yeah.
She gets an old suit out of. She dresses in like just some random human-sized suit that they have for some reason.
That's great.
And she's like, "I'm gonna add this to your tab, of course.
Yeah, but the one I mean, we don't have that.
2 platinum for the suit."
Sure.
Cool. What are you guys gonna do?
Do we know where to find Alberio?
Danny, do you know where this?
That's definitely not his name.
Do you know where Professor Lumiere studies?
He gives you guys directions to where his wizard tower is.
Ooh.
Oh,
Yeah.
I like flowers.
What's it called? The wizard tower.
The candlestick.
Oh yeah, the candlestick.
Yes. It's called the candlestick.
Yo!
The top room is always like lit up with his
So
study.
candle.
Yeah. It's a good room.
Nice. That's actually very clever.
I know.
Yeah.
He looks,
Alright.
Head off. Is it far? Should we take a horse?
You guys can walk.
Should I pick you up and sprint?
Yes.
I'll do that.
I'm
I'm very fast.
I get on her shoulders, hold my hand, and just say, "Yeehaw!"
I'll take my
Do you still have long strider? Or did you
No,
swap
I
that
got rid of that.
Okay. So it's a really funny image. Just like your hair just like flowing back behind
Like a
you.
I get
Just
up
like-
all fours. Oh god.
You're just like bowling halflings over and
Yeah, public menace.
Like I don't even try to avoid them. I actually like go for them.
Yes, 20 points. Walk over that grandma. That's
Imagine you
double
just see,
points.
they don't have TV, so you see like a theatre where they just, you know how you get a strike in the theatre.
Yeah.
Strike!
Yes. So that's our journey.
Beautiful. Okay, so we arrive at the candlestick.
You guys arrive at the candlestick. Sorry. Yeah, so the candlestick is in like quite a central part of town where there are some really big like government buildings and some really like expensive townhouses and like nice parks and all that sort of thing. Yeah, it's just off to the side of this really big walled estate that you guys would have caught a glimpse of from the top of the hill. Before you guys came down to Vistro.
Yeah.
So it's this tall stone wizard's tower that kind of like leans off to the side and like comes back the other way, and it's like looks like it definitely shouldn't be able to stand up. It's so like crooked as things have been added onto it, and like timber additions and all that sort of thing. It's for sure being kept upright by magic. And there's a big wooden door at the bottom.
I cast a spell magic. No, I'm joking.
On the whole.
Everybody dies. Can we like knock?
Yeah, sure. You guys knock on the door, and there's like this kind of like a brass, like this intricate brass snake that forms like the knocker. So as you guys knock on that, then it just like springs to life and like looks at you guys, and you just hear this voice coming from it. Like its mouth isn't moving or anything; it just kind of opens its mouth and speaks like all at once, and it says, "State your business."
I like lean towards the mouth and speak into it, and I'm just like,
Please stand
Why?
back. Not that close.
I go closer.
You're gonna get big.
You're basically making out of this thing.
I like my snout is in its mouth.
I'm very uncomfortable.
We want to talk to Mr. Lumiere. We have news from a friend of his about an object he ordered on Postmates.
Who is the friend?
I'm not allowed to say. It's like halfway's a gift. So,
Let's just say there's 2 W's in it. W.
What?
Yeah, there's 2 W's.
Is it
in
two,
Oh, right.
Is it 2 double U's or 2 W's?
W.
Yeah, Wentworth's name is actually spelled U-U-E. The snake kind of halts for a second and then it like retreats back into the door and disappears completely.
why'd
And the
you
door-
leave?
And the door cracks open.
Oh. Okay, let's go in.
Yeah.
Fire snake.
You guys go in and there's like a what do you call it? A spiral staircase that's just like slowly moving upwards and like twisting up.
Nice. Don't even have to climb.
Dope.
I'll go back on Alfie's shoulders.
Yeah.
And you guys go on the staircase as it just slowly brings you up. As it brings you up, there are these like niches on the side of the wall that have all these random like things displayed in them. Like there's just like a shrunken head of some bizarre creature with like this weird snout and like big fangs. And there are like these delicate instruments that are just like whirring around and giving off little puffs of smoke. There's a glass thing that has just like a live what seems to be a pixie, but not a regular pixie. It's this like black weird sort of thing that just like
Cornish pixie.
Of course.
it just like
Cornfields.
it just like dings off the glass and like leaves these black smudges on the glass that evaporate again. Yeah, and you guys wind up to the top of this
Kind of want to free the pixie.
to the top of this tower, and it opens up into this huge space, which is definitely way bigger than it was from the outside. And there are these like these huge vaulted ceilings that go up like several stories worth, and yeah, just this enormous workspace basically. So it's filled with all sorts of instruments that are just like churning around and like gears are ticking. There are things suspended from the ceiling, like all sorts of herbs and random dried things. There's this little wooden bird that just lands on your shoulder and then flies off again. Like it's very clearly just carved out of wood, but it seems to be alive. And there's this huge instrument in the corner of the room that's it's got these like big balls on rods that are just like moving up and down slowly, and these huge gears that you can see behind it that are all turning and emitting these soft little beeps and purrs and things. And you guys notice next to you in one of the windows there's like a bunch of books and stuff piled up, like there's like a little study nook, and in one of the books that's open on the table there's a small creature that's lying curled up on the book, just kind of sleeping in the warmth of the sunlight. And it is a teeny tiny little dragon.
Dragon! Is his name Norbert?
No, its name is not Norbert. So it's this like red, quite like a dark red dragon that's just softly, sleeping there. You can hear its tiny little lungs inflating and deflating.
I want to try and pet it with my mage paw.
I would
Just
like to
really
pet it
softly.
with my actual hand.
You guys pet this thing. It like sleepily wakes up and kind of nuzzles into your hand.
I wanna pick it up and put it on my other shoulder.
Give me an animal handling check.
Yeah. It's not too good. 8.
It shies away from you a bit.
Baby.
It doesn't want to be picked up at the moment.
Let it sleep.
So cute.
I guess we look around for Lumiere.
Yeah, as you guys get further into the space and keep looking at all these random things that are going on there, you notice that he's actually with that big instrument, adjusting some dials and stuff. You kind of round the corner and you see him working there. It's this tall, quite skinny man who seems to be like in his 60s, probably. Wearing, you know, your classic kind of wizard's robe, and he's got like this scraggly beard, and he's just sort of wildly adjusting things and taking readings of things on there. He doesn't really seem to notice you guys coming in.
I'd like to.
Right?
Mage paw and just.
No, that's rude. You can't just touch people.
As you touch the
He keeps working and he says, "If you have something to say, you should just say it. You should not bother with this cough nonsense."
I have something to show you, and I'd like to hold out the letter for him.
He, without even looking at you, just snatches the letter and he snaps his fingers and glasses, like reading glasses, appear in his eyes. And he scans over it really quickly and he says, "This is burnt. You have the original?"
That is the original.
This is problematic, no?
Yes, it is. But you see, the man whom this is addressed to is dead. The object has been taken, and we know by whom. I hold up the badge.
He completely stops and turns around and looks at you
I took it back.
and says, "Yes, this is a problem."
Yes, we would like to engage your assistance in firstly figuring out who wrote this letter so we can, address them for further assistance, and also resurrecting one of the people of our company.
Resurrection is... that's not how French accents work, is it?
Just drop like every letter.
Drop them all, don't speak.
Break up back town.
Actually, our listeners in France, so let's calm it down a bit.
Resurrection is a difficult procedure. It's expensive, no? I of course know the person who this. I'm not doing a French accent. That's turned into like Spanish or something.
Just try
Keep
it.
going. Keep going. He's a wizard. He can be cookie.
It will form into something.
He probably knows like 30 languages anyway.
The letter to who this person, the person to who this letter is addressed is a very powerful and influential person. They will no doubt. Sorry, from whom?
I was gonna say, Captain Wentworth was very influential, certainly among the Felts, but...
I apologize, I have barely slept. I'm very busy at the moment.
Sure.
The person who wrote this letter is very influential and will no doubt want to know the circumstances of your arrival. Perhaps I can make an introduction?
Yes.
But the resurrection of which you speak is not possible.
Why?
Resurrections are, how you say, expensive.
Yeah, because we need diamonds.
Oh, we need diamonds.
Yeah.
We can get diamonds.
Of course, if you have the cash, I can do something for you, but
How much?
you do not look like you have
How
the
much?
required
First of
funds.
all, listen here, Mr. Wonky ass candlestick dude.
Willy Wonka ass.
He looks at your torn cloak, Felix, and he
I wish
says,
I'd kept mending.
and he says, far more than you can afford, no doubt.
How much?
25,000 gold for the materials.
That's doable. I've got friends in high places.
Easy. What are the exact
Plus a
materials?
service charge, no doubt.
Which would be how much?
Nothing, because you are doing this for our friend, Mr.
Your friend is no friend of mine.
But they're very
Well, he hired you.
influential, and maybe they have what we need.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Anyway, could you introduce us to this lad who hired you? Or, woman, maybe?
Yeah.
Laddie? Lady. There we go.
Your progressiveness is, how you say, admirable, but it is a man who lives only down the road. And he whisks away and says, come, come. And he starts going out. As he gets to the window where the tiny little dragon was sleeping, he says, this dragon is a lazy creature.
I'll take it. Give me the dragon.
He like shoves the creature off the book and shoves the book closed and says, how many times do I have to tell you? You cannot read. What you're doing with these books? You are damaging them. You must be careful with these. And the little dragon just like stares up at him and like gives this tiny little screech.
I'd like to give him a copper for his hoard.
The wizard says to the dragon, "You're a useless familiar. What are you doing? You do not do anything I tell you to do. You just sit around. You listen to nonsense. You read books. You're useless." And the dragon just like screeches at him again and then just flies out the window.
Oh, you're so mean to him. He's trying his best.
He's adorable.
He's useless. But
What's his name?
for what do you want to know his name? He's a useless little pseudo dragon. No real dragon. It's just a.
He looks adorable.
He's amazing.
I will pay 2,500 gold for him.
He ignores you guys and just keeps walking down the stairs.
What's his name? We must know.
Yeah, and you guys see the stairs are spinning downwards now.
Did you make the dragon?
Makes the dragon? No, I do not make the dragon. You cannot make the dragon.
Yes, you can.
You
You're obviously
just
just not high level enough.
Yeah, clearly.
First of all, fuck you.
Oh, for you! Yeah, for you!
Second of all, you cannot just create creatures that are alive out of nothing. You can.
Pass me the player's handbook.
People create these constructs and what you call them simulacrons, but they are not the real deal. You know, they are always just some mega image of the real thing.
Yeah, dude, you're taking the magic out of it, so.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Get a grip. Okay, anyway, we were walking.
Yeah.
Walking?
Yeah, he hasn't started walking.
I'd like to free the the pixie on the way down.
Oh, gosh.
Do you want to do that?
Don't do that.
I definitely want to try.
Don't do that.
Okay. Do you want to do it stealthily, or are you just gonna like smash the glass, or like what are you gonna do?
I'm gonna try and do it stealthily.
Okay, give me a stealth check.
16.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
I'd like to whisper it to her or him and be like, "Hey, just wait till we're out the door and then you can go, okay?" And I just like lift the glass off of her.
It instantly just like whizzes off upstairs and just like banging off the walls.
And I act like I didn't do anything. What was that?
Lumiere doesn't seem to notice anything. He's just
That's
marching
great.
downstairs.
It's fine. It's fine.
Keep going.
Yeah, cool. You guys go back outside and he leads you over to along the wall of the estate next to you and to the big gate that's there.
Is it like the mayoral mansion or something like that?
I mean, you can't see much through the wall.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when you get to the gate, you can see there's a very big mansion through there. Yeah. There's a not a guard, basically a doorman or a butler stationed at the gate, and he says, "Pleasure to see you again, Alvaro." And the wizard says, "Yes, we must see Dorian at once." And
Dorian Gray.
no, not Dorian Gray.
Are you sure it's not Mr. Professor Dorian Gray, my psychologist?
Wait, your psychologist is named Dorian Gray?
Yeah, why not?
You need
Mr. Professor Dorian Gray.
You need a new psychologist.
He likes to follow the Freudian methods.
He does.
Freudian really had a field day with it. Freud really had a field day with it.
Jeez. Cool. And the butler says, "But of course," and opens the gate for you guys, and you guys walk through. It's this beautiful, perfectly kept gardens that surrounds the thing, the mansion. It's these sprawling gardens with trees, and there's a little river running through it. You see a really big pagoda up to the one side with vines crawling up and everything. But you guys are led straight through to the mansion by the wizard, and you guys enter there. You enter the mansion, and immediately as you come in, the ground drops down a lot. You basically enter on this sort of balcony section with the stairs coming down either side of it, and so the ground drops down to give this really huge space just as you come in that's below you, and in the middle of that space is the enormous preserved skeleton of a dragon, like a full-sized ancient dragon.
Damn, that's pretty dope.
Yeah, boy.
That's sad because the dragon's dead.
The Alvaro just completely ignores this and just marches off to the one side where he seems to know where this Dorian person is. And yeah, you guys come through the mansion. It's this enormous, high-ceilinged spaces that's seems quite modern. Kind of. You can tell that the house has been there for a long time, but it's sort of been renovated recently to reflect the more, the recent styles. So you get these brilliant views of the Bay of Vasir, and pretty much every room has, the views over that thing. It's kind of built up on a hill a little bit, so you get all those views going through there. You guys come across two people that are sitting in a large lounge room talking to one another. One of them seems it's a very old man, and the other one is quite young, probably in his 30s or so, with these broad shoulders and a really strong jaw with kind of a nicely kept beard.
For a split second, I thought you were going to say there's this wealthy man and this woman hysterically freaking out about having ketchup on a thing.
And they're talking in quite low tones. You guys can give me insight checks if you want.
Insight. 13.
Inside 16.
You guys can tell that the old man seems quite distressed, and kind of, sad. The younger one seems to be trying to comfort him and reassure him that things are going to be alright. What are you guys going to do?
I'd like to announce, we come with news from the sea.
They both look over at you for a sec, and Dorian.
Mainly me, not her.
Yeah, because I'm just what?
So the younger one says to you guys, just a moment, please. And he pats the guy on the shoulder, the older guy had started getting up, and whispers something to him, and gives him a hug, and the older guy leaves. So this younger guy comes closer to you guys, and Alvaro says, may I introduce Dorian Ferrodente? And Dorian, who's like dressed in this bright blue sort of cloak, like really casual underneath, but you can tell it's the kind of clothes that are like super.
He's wearing sweatpants, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's wearing the like super rich person equivalent of sweatpants.
Dressing gown.
The sweatiest of sweatpants.
You know what? Kanye West t-shirts.
Oh yeah. Putting Yeezys on.
Just a plain white t-shirt.
Yeah.
What are those 3,000 like off-whites or something? There's $3,000 t-shirts that are and the name says exactly what they are. Yeah. Anyway, so this guy gives you guys a bit of a bow, and he says, and to whom do I owe the pleasure?
Felix de Felicis, first of his name, and not much else so far, but I'll get there.
And Althea.
A pleasure to meet you, Dorian Ferrodente, at your service. I'm sorry, did you say de Felicis?
Yes.
I do believe I know your father and your mother.
Yeah. Everybody knows.
Everybody knows my
I'm sure you do.
Finally, somebody knows who my father is.
Do you know who my father will actually get?
He says, Alvaro, to what do I owe this?
We
This
were
visit.
travelling with a certain Captain Wentworth.
Captain Wentworth, yes.
He's dead.
Ooh.
You could have,
Ooh,
I handled that very well.
Yeah.
He sits down for a sec and kind of like rubs his head, and he says, wow, okay, what happened?
Many things. But first I would like to ask, what is the object that he was transporting for you?
You know about the object, do you?
Yeah.
I'm afraid I can't disclose that information.
Well, would you perhaps be willing to disclose payment for a resurrection spell then?
Wait, what?
Don't tell him who it's for.
I'm sorry, do you have Captain Wentworth?
Honestly, I wish.
We can neither confirm nor deny that. We cannot disclose.
It's top secret, confidential.
It's everything's very, secretive.
Right. If we're going to sort out this mess, you guys are going to have to stop fucking around here.
Oh,
So rude.
it's not for Captain Wentworth. Captain Wentworth died in a fire.
Yeah, he did.
Well, he got shot and then he burned.
He
It
did.
was rather traumatizing. Honestly, I'm gonna have to see Mr. Grey for at least like 3 days in a row to get like anywhere close to being okay. But it is for another person who died right in front of me, and we got him zombified. Oh,
He's
sorry,
semi-alive. He's semi-alive. He's like
He's upright most of the time. Only right now he's kind of screaming a lot.
Yeah, he's like.
I'm sorry, where did this occur?
Just off the coast of Clifton.
Near
Yeah.
Clifton.
Errol was there.
Errol.
He kind of like has this far off look and he says, oh no, you didn't,
John? Yes.
John. Oh yeah, John. Ugh.
I hate John.
is that what he's calling himself these days?
Well, he didn't want to tell us.
Vincent is his name.
Oh yeah. He looks
He's,
like a princess.
Idiot. He sparkles in the daylight. I mean,
Yeah, come on, dude.
He experiments a great deal with this sort of thing. It's really frowned upon by the society of magic users. Oh dear. I'm very sorry for your friend's loss. I don't know if a resurrection is really,
maybe reincarnation, perhaps.
perhaps
Is
some
that
sort of
cheaper?
compensation for his family.
Or like
We are family, so if you could pay us
25,000 gold.
that would be an appropriate word, Geld.
Yeah.
He shows you guys, offers you guys a seat on the leather.
Sorry, is this
Touches.
Oh, we can take these?
He says, incidentally, it is worth almost that much. But
great.
no, please take a seat. As in, sit.
Take it with me.
Please sit down.
Oh, okay. I'll take the seat though.
Yeah.
He says, we'll discuss your friend in a moment, but first, please, the object you mentioned.
Yeah. Gone.
It's gone.
Like when it was dead, it gone. Yeah.
He kind of scratches his beard and says, shit.
We know who took it though. Well, somewhat. We have a clue.
Do you
We know
who
what
took
they
it?
look like.
Yeah. And
Who's-
also, we do have this. I pull out the badge.
He takes the badge from you and looks at it and says, I was afraid something like this would happen. This came from the people who took the item.
Yeah.
Shit.
They also took a rather distinctive necklace from our dead friend.
Yeah, so it's really very important. Like,
Yeah.
he's very important.
Yeah.
Right.
The main guy took the necklace.
Yeah.
Should just put that up.
He turns back to Alvaro and says, I'll deal with this. Would you care to just wait, perhaps wait in the other lounge for now? I'll come call you in a sec.
Take a nap.
And the wizard leaves. He says to you guys, he looks around and he waves a hand, and there's this shimmering field that appears around the three of you for a second and then disappears, and everything else in the house just seems muffled and quiet. And he leans into you guys and says,
Here? I mean, cockroaches in a house like this. Sure.
He leans into you guys and he says, I've been suspecting that perhaps someone in my employ, someone working in the house, has been giving information to someone, I'm not sure who. I assumed, or had hoped rather, that I was mistaken, but I think this confirms it. That object was the only person who was supposed to know about that, apart from me, was Captain Wentworth
And of course, Lumiere.
and Lumiere.
So are we saying that it's Lumiere?
Basically, yeah.
I would trust Lumiere with my life.
That doesn't say much. I mean, you can get resurrected at any point in time.
He
What's
says,
it, 25,000 gold for you?
Yeah, like one chest, come on.
Yeah.
he says to you, there are ways of killing people from which they cannot return.
Oh, yeah, aging spells.
That's true.
And at the risk of sounding, the truth is my life is more valuable than most. So when I say I trust Lumiere with my life, that is the deepest honor.
Why is it more valuable than most?
Like, would you say that your life is more valuable than a mimic?
I feel like maybe now's not the time to bring up
Yeah.
the mimic rights
This is
social
important.
justice movement.
Do you have like political power of any sort?
He says, I know a lot of people, yes, but I wouldn't say that I'm politically influential.
That's alright, I'll be the influential one. You just need to get me in a soiree
Get
with
them
those
in
people.
contact.
Give me an insight check real quick.
Shout out to the 2 crew. 3.
2 crew to 1.
Oh,
Oh.
sorry. I've read that wrong.
It's a 1.
Yeah, no. This guy has no connections that are useful to you. Yeah, it doesn't seem like he would to you.
He totally looks like the queen or something.
That's a
He
queen.
is the queen.
He says to you guys, now, that item that was taken, that item is more valuable than mere gold or platinum. It is. Unfortunately, I cannot tell you what that
Is
item
it the
was.
Philosopher's Stone?
The Philosopher's Stone. No,
The sorcerer's stone.
Oh, sorry, Sorcerer's Stone?
no, we call them the Philosopher's Stone.
Okay,
here.
you never know.
Original title.
So, no, you can get
Is it the elixir
those
of life?
quite easily. Like Philosopher's Stones, they're not, hard to come by.
Is it something that will make you live forever?
Look, I really don't want to discuss the
Is it
nature
something
of...
that can kill a lot of people?
Damn, I wish I got so good of truth.
We're not going to be playing some sort of guessing game here. This is
Oh,
not what's
20
going to
questions.
happen.
But are we hot or cold?
The point is, the recovery of that item is of utmost importance to me. There is nothing at the moment that I would not do or would not pay for the recovery of that item.
So what I'm hearing is that you will pay for our friend's resurrection and more if we go on a quest to retrieve this.
Yeah.
What I am saying is that, unfortunately, it seems that my regular employees cannot be trusted.
Which is why you're
We're
employing
not your
us,
regular
right?
employees.
We're all on the same page here.
Great. We're excellent fighters as well.
Yeah.
He puts his hands on you guys
Why?
and says,
Please don't. I feel very uncomfortable with this. I already have a daddy. I'm sorry. I
he puts a hand on each of your shoulders and looks into your eyes, and his eyes flash this insane, bright blue color, and he says, "Can I trust you to help me?"
Well, can you really trust anybody?
You can trust us.
You can trust us to work for the money.
He nods and says,
I need
Right.
to get a
It-
gold-leafed lute. They don't come by easily.
he says, "It seems as though I have no other option at the moment. You two already know about the object, and I'm not really willing to tell anyone else about it at the moment.
That's wise. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally I would be able to dig into this myself, but
We understand.
I don't want to be seen
You
Digging-
councilman duties.
Yeah, you have a reputation, so.
Not so much that, it's just that if there is someone that is watching me and passing on information, if I start digging around and trying to find out what's going on, that's going to be passed on to whoever this information is being passed on to.
Very true.
And then there might be drastic measures taken to, I don't know, move the object away or
Wash silence you.
Yeah, it's
let them try. But the point is, I don't think it would be wise for me to stir anything up at the moment.
Except maybe the movement for mimic rights.
But of course,
Yes.
it's a very important underlooked issue.
I'm surprised you agree.
Yeah,
Yes.
the guys at the front gate were just like, mimics are very like even animals.
Right?
Monsters.
I mean, you've got to see it from the point of view of the people on the streets. They, nobody likes being eaten by a mimic.
I hear it's kind of a kink.
Some people into it.
Yeah. I hear it can be pleasurable to be eaten.
Yeah, some people describe it as like the ultimate high.
Yeah.
I'm
Not
not
that
going
we
to
would
comment
know.
on that.
Honestly, if we're talking about like death and being eaten, my favorite way to go would be eaten alive by a giant snake.
It's a very interesting point of view.
Yeah. Going feet first and whole into a slimy mold would give my life perfect symmetry.
It's very poetic.
Yeah. A friend Cecil told me about that.
Yes.
Oh
Anyway, so are you two willing to help me? And your friend, if I were to resurrect him, you would be willing to help me?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. We're a trio.
Yeah.
Just
We're
keep
less
it.
effective if it's just us
He's
two.
the stabby one, she's the punchy one, I'm the make them fall over laughing one.
Yeah.
Quite a dynamic trio.
Yeah.
Just remember that the cost of this resurrection is more money than most people would earn in their entire lifetimes.
Yeah, but
So-
So if we get this object back for you, you still owe us like 50,000 gold is what we're saying, right?
yeah.
So, so what I'm saying is that if I am to resurrect this person, you are in my debt, and you will help me.
Well, yes. But we'll also get paid a bit afterwards, right?
I think this resurrection is payment enough. But
You said the object was beyond coin value, so...
okay, we can discuss this
How
at some
about
other
this? How about
junction.
this, right? We do this for you, and if we like pick up extras on the side, you know, I'm sure these people have other stuff.
Yeah. We might.
I will, of course, cover your expenses, anything you need to accomplish your task.
Oh, yeah, that's
Uh,
definitely do need to buy a few things.
Yeah, we need an allowance.
Yeah, I need better shoes.
Do you have a credit card?
Look, the tap is really falling off. Do you see that? It's loose. Do you see that?
Yeah, I need a new coat.
Yeah.
He says, just as I cannot go looking into these things myself, if you were to go into town and just spend an insane amount of money, that would obviously raise suspicion. So, you know, we cannot just buy anything for you.
Yeah, I guess that's reasonable.
I'm
But
already-
like a new coat or something.
Perhaps, yes.
Yeah, and maybe some armor.
Are you, would you happen to be the person that's trying to set up the crystal net in Vistron?
Yes, I've invested quite a large amount of my money into establishing that network.
Any word on when that's gonna get finished? Because I kind of need to update my statuses. I have thousands of followers waiting for me.
I think it's still going to be a few years still.
Oh.
But you may have noticed that on the grounds of this estate, there is a reception.
I'm gonna visit here every day. I quickly just like take pictures and post them all.
What are you taking pictures of?
The
Just
dragon
a lot of
skull?
selfies. Yeah, I probably took a picture with the dragon.
The
Posting
fancy
a selfie with Alfia.
Nice.
Nice.
Cool. This guy says to you, now your friend that we've been speaking of, will you bring him here?
He's in my dad's house. He's kind of collapsed at the moment in one of his fits of
It would be weird to like drag in.
We better act quickly. I do think perhaps it would be better to conduct that here, where there's more space.
Yeah, we could maybe.
Do you have a hearse?
Or like a carriage or something.
Of course, I can dispatch a carriage for you.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, maybe some movement or
Yeah,
wait
it was
here.
so weird.
Cool.
Then Felton, it's 15 Feltalia Drive.
Okay, they're in
Afton.
Afton, not Felton.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Afton.
Anyway. Okay, cool. So you
Yes,
guys.
drive all the way to Felton.
Yeah, they're like, damn it, she meant
Bring
Afton.
Felicia.
Great. So you guys give them the details, and they dispatch a carriage. As that happens, you guys meet Alvaro again in one of the other lounge rooms, and Dorian tells him to go get like some diamonds, and he gives him some details on that. So Alvaro disappears and comes back a while later with a small leather sack, and a while after that, the carriage pulls up again with Torax in the back. Torax, at this point, you have regained like a little bit of consciousness. You're basically in like a fever dream at the moment. So you're like vaguely aware of what's going on, but you are like sweating like crazy.
But he looks dapper in his suit, right?
Yes, he does. He is in a very expensive. Yeah, you find yourself not in the clothes that you were wearing before, and you realize that your underwear is like way softer than it was before, and you're wearing like linen boxes.
You're welcome.
And you have no idea how you got into those. Cool. So a couple of servants come and help you guys move Torax, and they move him to a part where there's like this huge fire pit sort of thing, and place him on the ground next to that. Yeah. Oh, I just realized that this is still like this is all one day from when you guys were traveling. So by this time the sun is like setting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, probably by the time you got Torax is there, it would have set already, and it's getting quite dark. All the servants leave, except one that Dorian asks to stay, like a young man that seems quite strong. What?
Oh, I thought something was going to happen all good. But still might. Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to just waddle up to the young man and be like, hey, do you like my hat?
Yeah, it's a very good hat. It seems a bit big.
I feel like that's what really makes it a style.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, my bad. I didn't. Yeah.
I'm Felix, by the way. What's your name?
Robert.
De Niro?
Alvaro opens that leather pouch, and he pulls out these diamonds. These are like orange diamonds with this like flame inside each one that like flickers. And he begins like spreading them out on the ground in the fire pit. And Dorian explains to you guys as Alvaro begins like muttering and waving his hands over in this like rhythmic chant. He explains to you guys, these diamonds are
Forever.
it seems like some sort of marketing campaign.
That's Zoido's best friend?
No. These diamonds are infused with phoenix fire. They're incredibly rare and difficult to come by, but
You got so many of them.
well, it's quite a small pouch. It's not like a huge stack of diamonds. But he says, I know people. So Alvaro begins is doing his thing, and at a certain point he gestures to you guys, and Dorian shows you guys Dorian says that you have to move Torax onto, into the fire pit on top of the diamonds. So there's 4 of you. Each of you can help pick up and move Torax into there.
I'll just mage hand it.
Well, my change can only
10 pounds.
Yeah.
I'll take a foot.
Great. And Alvaro begins to mutter over Torax's body and move his hands. This goes on for quite some time, with Torax kind of still just in and out of it the whole time. And quite suddenly, after about 20 minutes, fire just bursts out from below him, from the diamonds.
Oh, cool.
And it's...
Apparently something interesting happened.
You guys are quite close by. You can feel the fire isn't warm, it's quite cool to the touch.
See, it is cool.
And Alvaro gives Dorian another command, and Dorian says, right, from here on it's going to get painful. We're going to have to restrain him. So you guys can pick a leg or an arm.
I'll pick.
I'll take the left leg.
I'll pick the right arm and the butt of his head.
no eating.
Yeah.
Sure. So then Dorian takes the other leg, and the young guy takes the left arm. The muttering gets much louder, and the flames begin to rise higher and higher. And while they seem cool to you guys, the flames suddenly flash brilliant red, and you begin to see Torax's body blistering and blackening. And Torax begins screaming and thrashing about. And you guys have to fully restrain him to keep him down on the ground. And Dorian says to you guys, whatever you do, don't let him break free. We have to keep him restrained for the entire process, otherwise something might go wrong. And his body, his skin is cracking and sizzling. Torax, you are in complete agony right now.
Just another day of the undead.
Your reality and your weird fever dream suddenly collide into one, where you're just completely engulfed in flames. You feel a hand on your shoulder, and you see the image of this half-elf that's staring into your eyes, and he's screaming something at you, but you can't hear what's going on. All you hear is this sizzling and burning and cracking as you try to break free of this agonizing fire. You guys all hold him down. The fire changes color every now and again, and changes its intensity. Torax keeps trying to struggle free, and then suddenly the young guy, Robert, who's holding his arm suddenly just breaks free for a moment, and Robert grabs it and tries to pin him down, but you see this fire has kind of melded into his arm and has run up his arm and a bit into his chest. It looks like the fire is coming from inside of his body, when you put a log on the fire for ages and it forms all those cracks. That's what's going on with his arm at the moment. And Torax is screaming, and then suddenly the fire just stops, and all the cracked and blackened skin on his body suddenly just glows with this kind of orange light, and then just melts away into his regular skin. And for the first time in several days, he takes a very deep breath as he shudders to life.
Ooh.
That was a good shit.
Yeah, there's just poo everywhere.
I put the fire out. Like, hold that in for like. I'm just gonna keep looking around, just being totally confused. What the fuck is happening?
I assume he's naked.
He is naked at this point. Yeah.
You got it all for nothing. You got it all for nothing.
Torax, you feel your skin is like smooth and healthy again, but then you look down at your left arm and you still see this like fire crackling in your arm. And Alvaro grabs your arm and starts moving his hands up and down there, like just frantically casting some sort of spell. You obviously have no idea what's going on. And the fire begins to recede and slow down, and then it fades and goes away. But your arm still remains kind of blackened where the fire was.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, right. That's like pretty bad.
This bitch ass couldn't hold my arm down. You could hold my leg down. Can't you?
Yeah.
It was the other guy, by the way.
Yeah, Robert.
Yeah, I was in the right arm.
I hand you my hat. Maybe cover yourself.
Yeah, what are you guys gonna do?
Well.
Okay. Sorry, Torax. This is Dorian.
Dorian Ferradente.
Yeah.
Pleased to meet you.
He's the reason you're dead, and also the reason you're alive.
Yeah.
So really, we're quite even now, aren't we?
Yeah.
What?
I'm very sorry about the pain you just experienced there. You see, essentially what happened is you were brought back as a frail ghost of what you were, undead. But with Vincent's experiments with his undead, you see, usually when you bring someone back as an undead person, there's nothing left of who they are. It's just a shell that sort of walks around and mumbles and doesn't really do much. What Vincent has been experimenting with is maintaining that personality within the undead. So essentially, a fraction of your soul was pinned to your undead body, while the rest of your soul was burning in purgatory, unable to escape to whatever realm it is you would have gone to. Part of the process we had to do just now was to wrench that soul out of purgatory and fuse the two parts back together again, which, as you now know, is incredibly painful.
I'm gonna keep looking at my left arm and just. Is it like my arm's black now, or like it's hard and blackened skin, or what is it?
Yeah, it's kind of like blackened and sort of
Like toughish.
a little bit, yeah. He says,
We have superpowers now.
just right, I apologize about that.
Maybe we
Robert.
should kill him and start again.
Yeah.
That would not solve the problem. It seems, and I may be mistaken, and he kind of glances at Alvaro, who nods. It seems that you have been infused with some essence of phoenix fire.
Dope, bro. I mean,
What
super
does that
cool.
mean?
Well, results may vary.
I'm just gonna look at him like, what the hell? And I just see him reading off like a prescription. Results may vary.
Consult your doctor first.
Side effects include
Do not take if pregnant.
test on a small patch of skin for 24 hours.
Small patch. I look at my whole arm. Is it like all of this, kind of like
From the shoulder.
Yeah, so your hand is the worst affected, and then it kind of goes up
Gradually.
to your shoulder. Yeah.
So it's like a super sick faded tattoo.
Yeah.
That's pretty rad.
Sam, you have a couple of abilities that you can use with your Phoenix Fire.
Whoa!
Lucky dude.
Okay.
So there is one ability that you actually had as a zombie, but it never became relevant,
Okay.
called Undead Fortitude.
Yes.
So what that does is when you drop down to 0 hit points, you can make a Constitution saving throw, and if you succeed on that, you drop down to 1 HP instead.
Ooh.
So you essentially...
Like a focus band.
Sure.
Yeah.
I've never played Pokemon before.
What?
Yeah.
Get out of my house.
I'm a 90s kid.
We're all 90s here. What are you talking
I
about?
played Pokemon
Oh my
well
goodness.
into the 2000s.
Yeah, I had Pokemon Go, but that doesn't really count.
No, it doesn't.
No. Anyway, so you still have that ability, but now rather than it coming from the fact that you're undead, it comes from that, like the regenerative power of Phoenix Fire.
What's that called?
Well, it's not called Undead Fortitude anymore.
It's called
Phoenix Fortitude? Maybe?
Alright.
I don't know, whatever you want to call it. You can write that down at some point. You also have the ability, a number of times equal to your dexterity modifier per long rest. You can channel. You can channel the energy of this Phoenix Fire to do one of two things. Either you can use it to heal yourself or one of your teammates, or you can use it to deal damage as a essentially like a spell attack. So you use your normal dexterity modifier for that.
So how many times I can do that?
How many times you can do that, but also like to make the attack, you use your dexterity modifier, and so it's essentially the same attack bonus as
Oh, it's just my dex?
everything else,
Yeah.
and proficiency.
And proficiency. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, so when you
Does that count as an action?
yeah, it's like a normal attack.
Okay.
Yeah. So when you attack, you can deal 3d6 damage with that, and when you heal, you can do 1d8 plus your wisdom modifier, I think. What is your wisdom modifier?
1.
Yeah, cool.
Seems
Yeah.
accurate.
So yeah, that's what you've got.
That's much cooler than I thought. I just literally had a burnt hand I couldn't use. So it's still fully functional. It's
Still
just kind
fully
of-
functional.
Yeah, okay, that's much better than I thought.
Yeah.
That's pretty
And all of your stats are your normal stats.
Back to
again.
normal.
You don't have
I've
to use your
already done
zombie
it.
stats.
I was waiting for it.
Yeah.
Because
Great.
now I have my dex is now 4, which is nice.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
So everything goes up a little.
Yeah.
Does that mean my AC goes up or not?
If your dex has gone up, then
Yep.
yeah, your AC would go up as well.
You!
So with your leather armor, it should be 11 plus dex. So yeah, 15. Moving up in the world.
Is that the same with initiative as well?
Oh yes, initiative also increases. Yeah, dex is it's a pretty handy stat.
Yes! I'm like, that's why I increased it.
Exact.
I think
Yeah.
I might just steroid my dex now, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, I mean, especially for rogues, it's really important. Okay, so yeah, you're alive again. The trio has been reunited. So Dorian, you see he's already thanked Alvaro and Robert and sent them off. And he ushers you guys inside again. Says to you, Torax, I hope you find your body pleasant again.
I'm just kind of just feeling myself up.
No,
not like,
Look
You guys have dirty minds.
You're naked,
I
good
am,
sir.
I am too. Where's my stuff?
He,
Where's
like-
my clothes?
He like
got
snaps his
friends.
finger and just conjures this like black cloak that you can just cover over yourself.
Martha had the foresight to decided to change you out of your armor.
It was me. And you paid him 2 gold.
Yeah, you're kind of out of it. Like,
Well, we should get back because don't I have all my gold in the clothes she now has?
She's fine. She'll keep it safe.
So yeah, Dorian
Yeah.
Dorian ushers you guys to a lounge room again, and he like clicks his fingers as he comes in, and fire bursts into the fireplace, and it like warms up surprisingly quickly, and you guys sit down next to there. He says, "Right, well, you guys can fill your friend Torax in at some other point about the details,
Yes.
but essentially, Torax, you are now in my service."
Didn't you just say we're even now? Because you kind of killed me in the first place?
Right, well,
He's paying us.
yes, we'll talk about that at some other point. But it says, let's talk about next steps. Now, who do we know is involved in this whole scheme?
I think because I have no idea what you're talking about. Like, well, I have a badge. Oh shit, where's my...
I thought it. I stole it. We know the crown's
I'm going to
guard-
attempt to snatch it back again.
No. Fine.
Please do continue.
Oh, I thought you were going to make us
I'm going to
grapple.
try and snatch the...
Oh, wait,
badge
sorry,
again.
what?
I'm going to try and snatch the
You weren't
badge
listening to
again.
the words we were saying.
We keep trying to have possession of
Okay,
the
yeah,
badge.
grapple checks. So athletics from Torax and either athletics or acrobatics from you.
Can I say acrobatic?
No, it has to be athletics
Yeah,
from the
that's
person that's like
grapple.
initiating the grapple.
Oh.
11 from me.
23.
Nice!
Thank you very much.
It's like,
I was doing it stealthily, but oh well.
Yeah, okay, cool. You steal the little badge. It's just like
Glad
squabbling
because
over.
Tasha's hideous laughter on him.
Is that a wisdom saving throw?
Yeah, come on, you're not wise.
What do I need?
13.
Oh yeah!
What did you get?
I still
But
laugh.
all the 13.
I still laugh anyway.
If he was undead, that would have worked.
No, I would have got still 13 because it was -1.
Right, can we please focus on what is going on here? So we know the Crown's Guard are involved.
yes.
Now,
And
I have
we
connections in the Crown's Guard.
Yeah, that's the problem, ain't it?
Or maybe it was you who orchestrated this. So
I don't
you
think
didn't
so.
have to pay
don't
Wentworth.
I'm willing to discount that theory. Regardless, I have connections in the Crown's Guard, so I can make some introductions and introduce the three of you as consultants. I know that there are some problems that they've been having recently, some crimes that they haven't been able to solve. Perhaps you can offer your services, and in the meantime try to discover if there's any sort of... we know that there are people in the Crown's Guard involved. Perhaps you can discover who they are. The Crown's Guard itself isn't overly corrupt or anything like that, but I've been suspicious for some time that there is a small contingent of people, rogue Crown's Guards.
Well, your small contingent filled 4 ships and a massive airship.
Well, perhaps if they were the ones that orchestrated this, it doesn't necessarily mean that that all of the people on the ships were the Crown's Guard. It's easy enough to get hired guns if you know where to look.
I
was
asked,
aggressive.
who, because obviously you don't want to tell us what it is, but
I don't think that's wise at this time.
yeah, we'll decide that.
Who would want it?
Yeah, who would benefit the most out of either having it or making sure that
You didn't
you
have
didn't
it.
have it?
Help us help you. Just tell us what it is.
I really don't want to do that at this time. Really, I think
I'd
that...
like to cast Detect Thoughts.
What?
you want to cast Detect Thoughts? Can you read the description on that for me?
I think they know
For
that
the
you're...
duration, you can read the thoughts of certain creatures. When you cast the spell and When you cast the spell, and as your action on each turn until the spell ends, you can focus your mind in on any one creature you see within 30 feet of you. If the creature doesn't... if the creature you choose has an intelligence of 3 or lower, or doesn't speak a language, the creature is unaffected. What? Oh, they don't even do a saving throw. I just hear their thoughts.
Cool. You cast detect thoughts on this guy, and like he keeps talking to you guys. It doesn't break stride at all, but you hear inside his head, "Do not test me, little one." My mind is a fortress.
As you say that, you just hear him just like, as a young kid, going,
because it's basically just the surface thoughts that you get off that.
Yeah.
So sufficiently powerful beings can control their surface thoughts.
Would be probably able to.
Yeah. Anyway,
Can I roll an Arcana check to kind of try and dive deeper?
sure.
Inception. We need to go deeper.
Come on.
18.
What did he roll? Like I rolled a nat 19 and my intelligence.
It's negative one.
Well, wisdom from him is what I rolled, but yeah, he
He was.
he very wise. Anyway, what were we talking about? Okay, so yeah, he was saying basically you guys can be introduced as consultants and try to figure out what's going on with the Crown's Guard. Just also, oh yes, of course.
Yeah, like who would benefit the most
Oh
out
yes.
of having it or you not having it?
I mean, I said that this thing was beyond, like, worth more than just gold to me.
Yeah.
But to
Is
someone...
it a dragon's egg?
Excuse me?
Is
Is
it
it
a
a dragon's
live
egg?
dragon?
Dragons are extinct.
Yeah, people keep saying that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why I abuse so much.
I mean,
Right.
You ever watch Jurassic Park?
yeah, you know, with all the orcs running around killing people.
He says, for most people, it is just something that they can sell off and make a lot of money.
So it is a dragon's egg. Yeah, cool.
I'm not sure where you got the notion that you can find dragon's eggs. Just still...
Well, maybe in your Jordinia you could find a dragon's egg.
Right, an interesting theory, but dragons haven't been seen for hundreds of years, and
I'd like to insight check him.
yeah, go for it.
According to my knowledge,
That is not good. It was like a 9.
Anyone else can do an inside check
Yeah.
if they want as well.
Torax. 16.
And Torax.
Dirty 20.
Oh, nice. He seems to be telling the truth.
We'll
That-
find a dragon.
But that dragons are extinct. Yeah.
Yeah, no, he doesn't seem to be hiding anything from you guys.
Except
Except for that thing, yeah.
Yeah, so he says the people who would benefit the most from getting this object are people who would want to sell it and become insanely rich.
So like you.
I'm already insanely rich.
I
Then why do you want it?
I have
Yeah.
a question
Like I
as
said,
well.
this object has uses beyond money for me.
Like making a dragon taking over the world.
Going back in time to get dragons? It's the tallest. No, but my question was, when we saw this thing getting stolen, like, did we see how big it was?
It
Like,
was a
was
crate that was like
Yeah,
Probably-
2 subways by 1 subway.
Yeah, how many
no,
subways
it was a bit more than a meter on each side.
So
Okay,
at least,
so
about
at
three
least
subs.
3 to,
Okay,
3
okay,
to
so
4
it's
subs.
not like the super long kind of, it's
Sub.
just like
No, like
Yeah,
about
yeah.
4 subways
each way?
each way. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's a
It is
square,
a
not a
dragon's
chest.
egg.
Yeah, so it's like a square.
Yeah, it was like a
crate,
wooden
yeah,
crate.
okay.
Yeah.
No, just so I know. So it's not like people like it around this huge.
It's most certainly a dragon's
like
egg.
a sarcophagus.
Cool. Anything else you guys want to ask?
Okay.
It's a dragon's egg, isn't it?
You can think whatever you want, but that's not going to change the reality.
Put the dragon's egg in the fire and it hatches. Can I name the dragon
Norbert?
Norbert? Definitely Norbert.
You're-
Also, the
You're
dragon
letting this
that
theory
Lumiere has-
run completely wild.
Can I have the dragon that Lumiere has? He doesn't
It's-
get it well.
It's not a dragon.
It is a dragon.
It's actually a pseudo dragon. They're
It's a
remarkable creatures. They're favored by wizards for their sort of innate magical abilities, but they've become especially interesting to many scholars because they present a very limited opportunity to study sort of draconic lines that are no longer available to us.
Can we get one?
Do you study dragon bones the same way?
Dragon bones are studied by some people, yes.
That's fudge.
They're incredibly rare, of course.
Racist.
Of course, they're studied with their consent. It's not
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they're just
What
abducted
about
off the
mimics,
streets.
though, eh? What about the mimics?
Perhaps I shall raise it with at my next dinner with some council members.
And you're not a council member?
I'm not a council
What
member.
is
no.
it that you do? How did you acquire this wealth?
Dorian.
Are you a pimp?
Are you immortal? Just have crazy orgies in here?
What?
I'm not Dorian Gray.
Are you sure?
He says to you guys,
People can change their names all the time. Maybe you took your wife's name. Or your husband's.
perhaps I'm not married though, but yes.
Not anymore, because you killed them.
Oh.
But the story of my wealth is well known. My family has been very wealthy in Vistron for many generations. My
And you've been alive through all those generations. eh?
I'm not sure what you're implying.
You're immortal!
I reckon you should make us dinner. Because it's late at night.
Oh yeah, can
And
we
then-
Maybe
like
it's
down?
cold outside.
And then we'll sleep here. And then maybe like your servant people can get us some really good clothes.
Yeah, and maybe some health potions. That's
Right. How about we make you some dinner? I'll tell you the story of how my family became wealthy, and of course you are welcome to take some of the guest rooms tonight.
Nice.
What a great host.
Yeah,
and-
finally somebody that appreciates our talents.
I can take them with me. Start grabbing chairs.
I think we'll probably cap it off there, guys. Yeah, next time we
hear
can
his story though. I really want to hear his story.
we can do that next time.
Can we just do it now?
Damn it, there's a name because I've written some history for Vistron. I don't have the name
I'll do it next time. You can
Yeah.
really inform us.
Yeah.
History.
of yeah. So you guys can follow us on Instagram. You can search at Erithum, that's ERITHUM, to see some of Emily's great art that comes out each time we post an episode. What else? What other show sort of stuff are we on?
If you want to send us any like longer messages, don't bother DMing us entire paragraphs. Just send us an email at erithum.podcast@gmail.com. And yeah, if you want to leave us a review, Apple Podcasts, best place to do so. But if you're not on Apple, then just like, subscribe, whatever it is on your
Whatever you're listening to us.
yeah,
Yeah.
that thing.
Tell your nerdy friends about us, and we'll catch you next week.
Yeah. See ya.
See you next
Bye.
week.
Bye.